Okay, so this training session is going to go over the projects and orders process, helping you understand what the process is. And then I'm also going to walk you through creating your own orders if that's what you would choose to do at a later date. So what we are covering during this is the agenda is how long does a project typically take? I'll get to that in a moment. Understanding the porting process, information you're going to need to have a successful project, how to create your own orders, what happens if something goes wrong, and after the slides, I'll also show you most of that within our portal, our sandbox portal. Any questions on the agenda? All right, let's get started. So the project process really starts on the left-hand side. The sale is going to be completed, so the customer signs a proposal. At that point, you will receive a provisioning email, and you'll need to complete that. If you do not receive the provisioning email, or you received it and somehow you deleted it and can't find it, you can always go into the proposal or the quote itself and start that project. I will show you that in the portal demo. When you click on the provisioning email or the starting of the project, it is going to ask you one simple question. Do you want to create the orders, or would you like Clearfly to do so? That choice is yours. If you ever decide that you want to create your own order and you run into a snag or have an issue, the orders team will absolutely help walk you through that process. So again, it's your choice. The three ladies, Ray, Kelly, and Saber, are exceptionally good at creating orders and handling the project for you. So that is an option, and I'm sure most of you have done that in the past. If you select Clearfly creates your orders, the Clearfly orders department will begin that process. And the first thing that they're going to do is they're going to post a bunch of questions that need to be answered by you in order for that project to move forward. So that comes back to the very first question on the agenda of how long does the project take? That is going to be 100% dependent on you. All right. The Clearfly orders team will start as soon as a project is created, but they are going to at some point run into a holding pattern waiting for your answers. So sooner you can answer that, the better it is and the faster that project moves forward. Once they have the answers to the questions, they're going to proceed forward. Then the only other piece that is going to hold that process up is the port order if you're porting any phone numbers. All right. And that is going to be dependent on the losing carrier. They have to accept the requested port date. If there's any delay on that, the orders team will let you know. And if there's something specific that they need to move that process forward, they're going to ask you that. And again, you're going to need to respond. Otherwise, it should flow fairly soon. If you're creating the orders itself, again, that time frame is 100% dependent on you. As soon as the project is created, you can move right ahead and start creating the orders. So if you're going to create the orders, you can realistically, depending on your familiarity with the process itself, you can realistically get it done within about 30 minutes. So outside of the local port orders, which again is also dependent on the losing carrier. Okay. Any questions on the process? By the way, if you have questions, you've got really three options. One is you can just unmute yourself and ask away. That's my preferred. You can raise your hand. You can enter a question in the chat function, or you can post a question in the questions and answer section. As far as what you need in order to have a successful project, something that goes smooth for you. number one, if you're porting phone numbers, you're going to need a list of those phone numbers, a copy of the phone bill, the account number and PIN number, specifically if you're porting from a wireless carrier. You will absolutely need the PIN number. So if you can get that stuff up front, that will help the project move quickly. The name and the email address of the person that will receive the letter of authorization. Now that person may be different than the person who signed the original paperwork. That person has to be authorized on that losing carrier's account. So make sure that the name that you have does have access to the existing or the losing carrier's phone account. And then you're going to need to decide when you want those phone numbers ported. So if you have those in your port numbers, that will move that process along. You're also going to need to identify what the outbound caller ID name is going to be. There's 15 characters. You'll need to know how many new numbers. If you want to select specific numbers, you are going to have to do that order. Clearfly's orders department will not be able to find you specific numbers. All right, and I'll go over that when we get to that portion in the demo. If there are multiple numbers that need to be registered for 911, you should have what numbers that you want registered for what addresses. Even if the Clearfly orders department is doing that, they will need to know that. Okay. Unavailable forward. If any of you have ever been in any of my presentations, it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I really think you should be setting an unavailable forward. I understand that most phone systems nowadays are virtual. They're not on-prem, and most virtual PBXs do not go down because they're sitting in a data center. But it is good to always put an unavailable forward number in there. That way, if for any reason that virtual system or on-prem system goes down, and we will automatically forward any incoming calls to whatever that unavailable forward number is. All right. And that can be set up on a voice group or on individual DIDs. Then if you're also doing a cFax order or part of the project, we're going to need to know the email addresses for the to and this send and the receive addresses. And if we're shipping an ATA, we also need to have the address for where that ATA is going to be shipped. We can ship it to your location, or we can ship it to the customer's location, or any other address that you'd like. Any questions on that? Okay. This is a process of if you're going to create your orders. I always start at the bottom. The voice group is always going to need to be created first. You can't really do anything unless it's a standalone cFax project without a voice group. The new number orders, port orders, the toll-free orders, they're all going to have to be attached to a voice group. So this is my preference. You may have it in a different order. Ray and her crew may give you a different order as well. But if I were doing it, this would be my recommendation. You start by creating a voice group, then the new number orders, then the port orders, any toll-free orders if so needed, and then the cFax order. All right. What if something goes wrong? So maybe the service address is wrong. We can modify that address if a voice group has already been created, and Ray can correct me if I'm wrong here, but most likely we're going to create a new voice group. We'll tear down the other one. So service address is wrong again. There's nothing within the portal that we cannot fix. All right, we'll help you out with that if that happens. If the customer doesn't like the new numbers, if we disconnect those numbers, And when I say we, I mean Clearfly disconnects those numbers. It's going to be $10 per number. You can disconnect those numbers for free. If the customer doesn't like the numbers, my recommendation would be for you to go in and do a new number search. Pick some numbers that you think the customer would like, or maybe they've given you some specific requests. If those numbers are available, you can go ahead and copy the list of available numbers, and you can send that to them for approval. All right. There is a 4-hour holding period once you select a number. After that 4 hours, those numbers become available to anybody to pick. So just keep that time frame in mind. The port date needs to get pushed back. So you've submitted a local port order request, specified a date and a time, and something happens. Maybe it's outside of your control, whatever. If the port date needs to get pushed back, you need to let the Clearfly order department know ASAP. If there is a firm order commitment date already in place, so the losing carrier has said, yes, we'll release those numbers on this specific date, there will be a $10 per number reschedule fee. All right, so it's a couple numbers, no big deal, right? But if it's hundreds of numbers, that could be a big deal. So if that happens, we understand it happens. Just let us know as soon as possible. If the previous carrier rejects the port order request, Ray and her team will let you know and provide you some guidance as to why. Most likely some of the information is incorrect. Maybe the person that received the LOA wasn't authorized on the previous carrier's account. So we need to get that sent someplace else. But either way, the Clearfly's orders team will provide you some guidance if that happens. Any questions or any other possible scenarios that you're concerned about if you're doing your orders? Okay. All right, then we'll just get right into the portal demo. Bring that over. So we're going to actually start from a proposal or a quote that was signed, but a project has not started. Since this is the sandbox, I don't have the ability to actually start one with an email. So we're going to come down to the proposal. That is the one that I set up. So if you lose the email, the provisioning email, or can't find it, you can always come into the quote itself, scroll down to the proposal status, click proposal view, and scroll all the way to the bottom and start provisioning. Once you click start provisioning, it's going to state your company's name, and you're going to specify whoever is going to be in charge of that project on your side. So we'll just say Joe Smith. Click next. And then this is the big question. Do you want Clearfly to create the orders, or would you like to create the orders yourself? For this demo, we're going to say that we're going to create the orders. So we click create orders, create project. And at that point, we can go back to, well, if you want to jump right to it, you're going to scroll to the bottom. There's a little hidden blue letter that says here, and it'll take you right to the project. All right, so this is project number 7. It is referencing the quote. What I would do is I would open up that quote in and put it onto a second monitor. If you don't have a second monitor, you can always split screens, which we'll do for this. because as you build the quote or the project itself, you're going to want to reference back to the quote itself. All right. You're going to want to double check what was sent to the customer for signing. Make sure that you, as the project team for this customer, that the numbers coincide with what your understanding is. So, so this quote here has 6 zip trunks, 10 telephone numbers. There is a local port order. Just real quick on the local port order, if you're porting numbers from multiple losing carriers, each one is going to end up having a local port order, which is a $10 one-time fee. All right. A lot of times the salespeople will forget that, or they forget to modify it when they're building the quote. And let's say you're porting numbers from CenturyLink and Spectrum, right? That should have actually been 2, quantity of 2. We will end up, modifying that on the first invoice. Carrie, what
Yeah.
would you?
What if you've got separate bills? So we had a client recently that had CenturyLink, but they had 2 separate accounts, and we were porting numbers from 2 separate accounts.
Same
Is it
scenario.
$10 per account that we're
Yes, sir.
porting from? That's what I thought. Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. So let's go ahead and get started on this quote here. There's a toll-free, there's a cFax, and there's an analog adapter. All right. So we're at the project. We're going to scroll down because you have specified you're going to handle the orders process. We'll automatically generate this little comment that you're going to handle that. If you need some assistance, please feel free to add a comment. The orders team will get notified of that, and they can help you in that process. Or, of course, you can call them. All right. So from here, you're going to come down to the orders panel right here. You're going to click Actions. And for my earlier diagram, I like to start with the voice group order. So you're going to click Create Voice Group Order. It is going to reference the service address. All right. If the quote had multiple addresses, there will be a drop down, and you can specify which of those service addresses the voice group that you're currently building is going to reside at. All right. So this one had 1, so we're good. We're going to click Next. You're then going to select your configuration choice. Most of you are going to select native. Since this quote was built and it does not have an ADTRAN associated with it, then I would say that it is native. So we're going to select native. Next. How many concurrent calls? It shows 6. There's no 911 settings here. If you're not aware of multiple 911 addresses, you're going to select none or no. This is typically not changed. Older days, PBXs would expect different number of digits, but nowadays it's all 10. Unavailable forward. Again, my pet peeve. You can do something with that if you want. And the default calling name, and this customer is Tom's Test 1. So we'll just put that in there unless they specified something different. If it exceeds 15 characters, it will let you know that you need to adjust that calling name. You can click
And
Next.
just as a note, Tom,
Yep.
if you're porting over and the customer wants their existing name, you folks have a tool down at the bottom of the page, of the portal page, that you can look up that caller ID name.
Yes, we do. So, or if you ever receive a phone call and you don't know who it is because the name's blocked, you can always go there and see if there's a name that's associated. All right, so at this point, we have the voice group configured. This is a review. You're going to click create orders. And at this point, we're going to click submit. Going to take a second to refresh. And at this point, the voice group is created. If we go to this SBN and we come to voice, you can see that the voice group has been created. All right. We can also go to the project and you'll see that the voice group is ready. All right. If you click complete order, you're going to get a pop-up and said this will start the billing. You do not need to complete that order until you're ready to turn that customer up. At this point, once we add some phone numbers, there is a primary number that's already associated with it. You can begin your testing at this point, okay, without clicking start billing. Any questions on the voice group creation? Okay, let's go back to the project. So we've got, we have the voice group order created and it is in a ready state. We now need to look at our quote. We need some telephone numbers. We knew that there were going to be five. So create new number order. It's going to ask you to specify the voice group. Most of the time nowadays, it's going to be a single voice group. But if you have multiple voice groups, you can pick that on the drop-down menu. Create order. And then the assignment method, if you leave it as automatic, then we are going to, the system is going to automatically select the quantity of numbers in the rate center that you choose. And you're not going to be able to specify or pick your numbers. That is the only option available to Clearfly when we create the orders. Okay. Since you're creating the orders yourself, we're going to select manual search. Click next. Just double checking on the caller ID name. This is just a review. So we're going to click create order. And at this point, there's a couple things on here. This direct inward dial option, you now can have DIDs or you can pick spare numbers. Either way, you're going to end up being charged for them. But the spare numbers are just going to be sitting there and you can just move those into regular DIDs at a later date. So that really came into play when we were doing Clearphone Cloud, more so than if you're connecting to a PBX. So we're going to leave it as a direct inward dial. If you click submit here, you're going to get an error because you haven't selected any phone numbers. So you're going to come to number search. Basic means that you're just searching based on telephone or on numbers itself. If you do advanced, you can specify letters as well as numbers. So if a customer is asking for something that, ends in tire, for example, you can, instead of trying to figure out, oh, what digit coincides with TIRE, right? You can just go ahead and specify it up here. We're just going to do basic. Geographic filtering would be probably most common for you, unless the customer has some specific requests. So we're just going to pick geographic filtering, city and state, and we'll do Billings, Montana. I want sequential numbers, and I just want to see 50, and then I hit search. That point, it is going to show you all the numbers that are currently available. And we need 5 of them. So we're going to pick those 5, scroll to the bottom, and reserve the numbers. Here's where it reminds you that you have a 4-hour window to come back to this order and submit the request. All right. After 4 hours, those numbers are going to be available to any other carrier to choose from. If you need to send those numbers over to the customer for verification, you're going to scroll down, click view as text, click full, click copy, throw it into an email and send it off to them. Once they have okayed it, maybe they come back and say, no, I don't like this number. You can come to the project. You have this local number order right here. You can click into the order. You can come down and you can click remove and remove one of those numbers. If you need to search again, you can redo that process. But let's say all these are good. You're going to click submit. Submit. Take a second to refresh. And at that point, all of those numbers are active. If we come into the voice group, there's those numbers, and that one was the primary number that we built the voice group on. Any questions on creating orders? Creating new number orders, sorry. Okay. Then we're going to move on, and we are going to create a local port order. So you're going to click create port order. You're going to select your voice group, create the order. Just a review of the service address, caller ID name, and then you're going to specify the numbers that you need to port. So we'll do 406-545-2680. And we're going to click next. And that's a review. We're going to create the order. And at this point, there is an awful lot of red. All right. If you try to submit this order with there being red in the port group, you're going to get an error message. Okay. So what you want to do is you come down to the port group, click the group actions button, the manage button, and start filling up all of these areas that say required for submission. So this is Tom's test 1. Again, coming back to a previous slide during the presentation piece, this is where having the phone bill is going to be quite handy for you. So if there's a BTN number, then please enter that. If there is not one that is specified, you can go ahead and try try the phone number that you're porting. Account number, same thing, just for this demo. I'm just going to use the same. If there's a PIN number, please enter that. Again, if you're porting a number from a wireless carrier, you will need a PIN number. All right. At this point, it's going to say account address. It is going to show the addresses that is associated with the voice group, the service address. It's going to tell you who the losing carrier is. Everything is filled in other than the PIN. And you can click update. And at this point, all of the red is gone. And we should be able to submit that. The first question it's going to ask you after you click submit is when would you like that that port to happen? All right. And actually, I do want to show you one other thing really quick. activation preference here. So you've got a couple choices here. If it's auto activate, then we're going to activate that port based on the time of the day and the day of the week that you have requested. All right. If you want to control that, you would come down to manual and you would update that. That means that we're not going to trigger that port unless it's at the end of the day, which is 4 p.m. Mountain Time. We're going to let you trigger that port whenever you're ready. Okay. So I'm a bit of a control freak. I would probably choose manual. If you're not as much of a control freak, you can go ahead and just specify automatic and make it easy on you. Okay. So we're going to click submit. We're going to pick the date, say the 4th. And again, you can specify any time period that you want. The latest time period that you can pick is 4 p.m. All right. Then it's going to ask you who you want to send the letter of authorization to. Again, keep in mind that they need to be authorized on that losing carrier's phone account. So we're going to pick Tom and we're going to submit the order. All right. Once that letter of authorization is signed, then the FOC time period will come into play and you'll see more detail when you're looking at that specific order. Any questions on that process? Anything to add? Okay. Next thing we're going to do is create a toll-free order. Really the same process as the previous ones. You're going to specify the voice group, click create, click next. Are we transferring any existing toll-free number or are you going to assign a new number? All right. If you click transfer existing number, it's going to be very similar to a port order. One thing to keep note of is toll-free numbers do not get moved over to us on a specific date and time. The losing carrier will release that number to us whenever they choose. So make sure that if you're going to be moving a toll-free number or porting a toll-free number over from another carrier, make sure that PBX is programmed with that toll-free number in whatever DID translation, or if you're redirecting it, you have that redirect set up and the number that will be receiving that redirect on that toll-free is programmed in the phone system. All right. We're going to select for this demo, assign new numbers. Again, this is just like creating a new telephone number, local number. You're going to click that and you're going to specify telephone numbers, click actions, new number search. This is new. We did not have that available, I don't believe, not the new number search in the past. You can add a specific number if you want, or you can just request a randomly assigned telephone number. We'll just do new number search. Here's the pattern. You can change that however you would like. Again, if you're looking for a tire at the end, you can specify that. I don't think that it's going to come up, but we'll see. And yeah, those aren't spelling tire, but it is going to show you a list. You're going to pick whichever one you want. That one looks good. Add to order. Submit. Submit. And it's in provisioning right now. Eventually it will show up. We click on the phone number itself and it's going to currently ring as a DID. If you want to change that, you can specify the local number that you want it to point to. Any questions on that? Okay. I think we only have a couple of things left. We're going to create a cFax order. So number type, you can use an existing number. So if you had picked some new numbers or your porting numbers, you're going to pick an existing number. If you haven't picked a phone number for the fax, cFax yet, you're going to click new number. We'll just click new number for simplicity here. You're going to specify the rate center that you want that new number from. It's automatically going to populate the rate center that coincides with the service address, but you can change it to anything that you'd like. Pick next. You're going to choose the plan. If we look over here, the cFax 750 was quoted, so we're going to pick cFax 750. Click next. How do we want to send and receive? It's going to be email only. It's not based on the quote. There is going to be an analog adapter. So we'll say email and analog adapter. Click next. You're going to add the sender's and the receiver's email. And add. So that email address is set up for sending and receiving. We're going to click next. Now it's going to ask you about the analog adapter configuration. We only want the ATA or the fax machine to send. You can specify that. This is the email address that if there's an issue with the ATA, where's it going? I know for Kyle, he always puts his email address in there versus a customer. That way he is notified of an ATA issue, most likely before the customer even notices it. So we'll just do mine. And now we need to specify where the ATA is going to ship. If you have some sitting in inventory, you're going to select no, do not ship an ATA. Otherwise, you're most likely going to click yes, ship a new ATA. Select next. It's now going to ask you where. It's going to show your address, and it's also going to show the address of the service location. Most of you are receiving it at your location, so you're going to pick that. Next. And this is just a review. And you're going to create the order. All right. You will notice a child order. That is because it's a shipping. We're shipping something. So we're setting up this fax service, and this is also for the ATA. And once it ships, you'll get tracking information. You're going to click submit. There's a phone number and all the other pertinent information. If you click complete, that is going to start the billing. So again, you don't need to click complete until you have received that equipment and you're ready to start billing. At this point, if we look at that project, there's the project. We've got our voice group. We've got our new numbers. We've got a port order. We've got a toll-free order with a new number. We have the cFax, and we have an equipment order. All right. Any questions on that process? Ray, did I miss anything?
It's a lot, Tom.
As in I missed a lot, or
No, you did great. It's just a lot of information. Like being a viewer, I feel a little bit dizzy, and I look at this all day.
all right, well, I did kind of go
So good
through it
job.
fast. Thanks, thanks.
So I got
And-
a question, Tom.
Sure.
If I'm doing cFax and I'm porting over, do you want me to do the port order first and the fax later? How does that, because I know I've run into that and I can't remember what the process is.
So, and again, Ray can correct me if I'm wrong. If that number is part of the same phone bill that you're doing all of the other numbers that you're porting, I would do the port order. And then when you build the fax order, you're going to select existing number. Make sense?
Okay. And then from that existing number, is that coming over from the, is that pulling that number or that
the-
list of numbers over from the port order?
That is correct.
Okay.
Ray, correct?
Yes, as long as the number is on the port order, when you enter in the fax number, it's going to recognize it on that order and say that there's already a port order for that number in the system.
And if I haven't submitted the port order yet, is it still going to populate, or I have to have the port order submitted as I'm building it?
In the scenario where you have not added the fax number to the port order, you would definitely not want that port order to be submitted yet.
Right, but if I've got, let's say I've got a list of numbers, 0001, 2, 3, and 4, and 5 is their fax number. So I put all 5 numbers in my port order. I don't submit the port order yet, but I go and I build the cFax order. Will that populate, or do I need to submit the port order so that, you know, number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are included, and then go build the cFax order after I've submitted my port order, and then it will populate? Or will it populate based on the fact that I've filled out the port order request?
It will populate whether you've submitted the port order or not, so that would
Okay.
not impact it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? You guys just want to hear me talk more? That's
Aren't you
scary.
exhausted?
No, not yet. All right. Well, then I am going to show one last slide. This is a wonderful Clearfly orders team. All of you on this call, I am sure, have spoken to all of them. They are available to help you, whether you are having them do the project management or if you're going to do the project in the orders management yourself. But these are the 3 fabulous ladies. If you ever need to get hold of them, you can dial our toll-free number, 866-652-7520, option 3, because there's 3 of them, and they'll help you out. All right, everyone. Well, thank you very much for listening. Thanks, Carrie, for the questions.
Thanks, Tom.
All righty.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you,
Hey,
Tom.
you
Have a
too.
good one.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.